Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come step into centuries of history that await in Scotland. Castles steeped in legend walk along cobblestone streets. Come share the warmth of stories passed down through generations. This is a place with a past that is fully present today and all yours to explore. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
So I write like very small amounts pretty regularly, but I'm not a girly who's going to sit down and write 10,000 words like ever. And I need to dip in and out of my creativity because I think a huge part of the creative process happens off of the page, like while we're out, while we're thinking, while we're eating dinner. Like it's a cognitive work, and we think cognitive work only happens at a screen, but it happens all the time. And our brain is doing so much work, even unconsciously as creatives. And so whilst I will try and write, when I'm writing a first draft, I'll try and write 500 words a day, even when they're really, really terrible. I don't want to be someone who is constantly at the laptop because I think most of the art and the ideas and the magic doesn't happen at the laptop. We need space to percolate and to daydream and to process.
Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. It's Andrew. I am so excited to let you all know that we are now in the top 40 best liberal arts podcasts list that got sent to me, and we're number 3. So thank you all for listening to the podcast. And I just really appreciate that you keep spreading the word. So please make sure you follow us on social media. Instagram is Ivory Tower Boiler Room, TikTok, Dr.Andrew, and please review us on Apple, Spotify. All of it helps. So I hope you just enjoy this episode. And as always, remember, there is an ad-free version on our Patreon.
Everyone, it's Dr. Andrew Rimby. Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I am so excited because I get to talk about one of my favorite periods in literature, which is the English Renaissance, the Elizabethan period. It goes by many names. So we're going to dig deep into Queen Elizabeth's reign with a really exciting new historical fiction novel, also murder mystery of sorts. I don't want to spoil too much. Queer novel as well. It's called To Kill a Queen by Amie Mcnee. So Amie, if you don't know about her work, she's an author, speaker, podcaster. She's also written The Rules Upheld by No One and regrettably I'm About to Cause Trouble, which also explores the lives of women in 16th century England. So definitely going to ask her this obsession that she has with the Renaissance period. In addition to her fiction, she's the author of We Need Your Art, a manifesto on the vital importance of creating, which I've seen her present on her TEDx Talks, which is you need to watch it on YouTube. Through her online platform, Inspired to Write, and her podcast, the Unpublished podcast, she shares inspirational pep talks, guidance, resources, teachings, all about advice for aspiring and flourishing artists. She splits her time right now between speaking, writing, and creating spaces for artists to thrive. And specifically, in her quest to explore storytelling as one of humanity's most profound acts of connection. So, welcome to the podcast, Amie.
I am so grateful to be here, Andrew. Truly, thank you. I'm sorry, I feel like I just gave you a massive bio and it was a lot of Amie just then, but I'm very, very grateful to be here.
No, I love it. Well, and also I should tell the audience, Unpublished, your podcast, is with your literary husband,
It
right?
is. It's with my
Okay.
literary. I What an excellent name for him. Um, yeah. So I write novels with my partner James, and we run a podcast together, and we've built a business together. So I have a little writing buddy in my house at all times, which I enjoy very much.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my husband is very into the arts, but he's in like a financial field. So,
Mm.
we like to like learn from each other, but sometimes I'm like twisting his arm a little to watch Camelot or
The thing is that you guys probably have balance in your relationship, whereas over here we've got all art, no washing up, you know? It gets a little much.
all art all the time. No, no, no. Well, I'm so curious. How did you just first, like, was it your fiction and your writing that inspired, your quest to really connect with artists and give
Yeah.
advice? Or was it vice versa? Was it
No,
like,
so there is
yeah.
no career for me as I speak hugely about the creative act and what it means to be an artist and what it means to create but this wouldn't exist and this part of my career and vision wouldn't exist if I wasn't a novelist. And so I always wanted to tell stories and write books. And I've been doing so since I can remember, and I've been taking it seriously since I was in my very early 20s. And as I did this, I felt so incredibly, I mean, all of us who are creative of any endeavor, we know like it can be a very lonely and daunting process. It can be incredibly intimidating. There's a load of failures and fuck ups along the way, and we need
Mhm.
support. And so I started talking about that as I developed my career as a novelist. And, you know, in a beautiful, bizarre turn of events, I became far better known for talking about the creative act than my novels itself. But it is born from being a novelist, and it is born from telling my stories.
Yeah. So is your background in creative writing, or did you kind of like pivot into writing through another discipline?
So when I left school, I went and did a degree in medieval history, and I specialized in
Mm.
sex culture. So I looked a lot at like sex work and medieval pornography and sex culture, and I was really interested in this like very human part of all of us that is like shared throughout all of time. It's just like something that like I could talk to someone from the 1570s and they would know what I was talking about, and I
Mm.
like that kind of shared thing that passes through time and it's with all of us humans no matter where we are in time or space. And so I decided to focus on that, but obviously there was no job at the end of the medieval sex studying degree. I mean, not that I know of. And I went into all sorts of different jobs trying to support my career as a writer. So I worked, I mean, you can name it, I tried it. Nothing stuck, and so I was hopping around odd jobs until I was able to make writing work for me financially.
And it really, like your podcast, I was just listening to your recent episode, and I love the way that you and your partner just bounce back. You're also both able to call each other out if you don't agree, which I think is refreshing, and you need that in a partnership and in a podcast co-host if you have
Yeah.
one. And it's so curious because, yeah, when you go deep into an artistic field, I know what it's like coming from a PhD English program, and I'm teaching at three universities part time. But you just you have to get your work out there. Like you have to get your teaching out there, your writing out there, and it really, from learning from you, you really have to put pen to paper. Like you have to be on the
You have to
grind.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I speak to academics all the time, and I think our journeys are really, really similar. They're obviously both incredibly creative, but also you're right. My James and my partner, his background is in academia as well. He was an historic. He also studied history and he studied economics and history, and did his master's in that. And watching him as well, trying to make a career there. Like we have to not only do the work, the creative work, then we have to like talk about our work and put our work out there, and we have to be advocates for our work, and we have to tell people about our work. And I think often we can think the creative process is like we're just going to hide away in a hole, and it might be a bit difficult at times. We're going to tell a story or we're going to write a paper, and it will be tricky. But then when it's done, it's done. It's like when it's done, baby, the work begins because you now have something to fight for.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to articulate what you've just uncovered or what you've
Exactly.
discovered. And I think the older vanguard of academia and writers, like there was a bashfulness, or I would hear at my time at Stony Brook from an older vanguard, like, oh, we're nervous. Like, we don't talk about our work. We shouldn't publicize our work. It seems too egotistic. Like, how do you
Mm.
respond to accusations like that?
I vehemently disagree. And I understand where we're coming from, but I think it only serves to keep the artists and to keep our work small.
Mm.
Um, if we're not going to back our work, why would someone else back our work? I feel like we're coming from a lineage of people who are outsourcing their power to other people. And so we're waiting for somebody else to say, you have something to give, and I will help you put your work out there. And so many of us wait our entire lives and we never get to do what we want to do. And sure, like I could wait until someone sees my work and decides they want to, put me on the New York Times bestseller list, but it's probably not going to happen. What I can make happen is I can write a book that I love and I can go around talking to people about it and I can, recommend it to people and I can fight for my art. It gives us agency. And I think the other route, it might seem like, oh, you're being so humble. Instead of humble, I think what we're being is we're being a bit cowardly because it is uncomfortable to back your own work. We don't live in a culture where that's seen as like the right thing to do. But I think it is brave to back the work that you have created and to fight for the work that you've created. Brave and powerful.
And you're going to create a conversation, which in that conversation, there's also going to be the disagreement. And then maybe that's the nervousness, do you think,
Yes.
is like when I get negative comments on social media, which
Mm.
again isn't the majority, but
Yeah,
you
but they
kind of have to,
happen.
yeah, it happens. And you have to develop, you're not creating a conversation if there aren't people who are also antagonistic towards
Exactly.
what you're doing.
Sometimes I had a really beautiful weekend last weekend and I was speaking at a conference and I just got so much beautiful, really good feedback and it was amazing. I loved it. I love attention.
Mhm.
And it was just really fun. And at the end though, I thought like, wow, like if my whole career was just this, like just pandering, like only people saying yes, 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 like my creative fire would die. If
Mm.
there's no tension, if there's only people telling you you're doing a good job, like I just don't think we develop very well as humans. And whilst no one wants to get trolled on the internet, like if we are vulnerable and we share our art, people won't like it. And that is a very normal, like mandatory part of being a creative person who shares their art. And so you're right. Like if we share our art, we open ourselves up to vulnerability and it is like mandatory. Like you can't avoid it. You can't create a paper so good or a book so good that you are like, no one's going to disagree with you. People will not like what you make. And again, to back something publicly to say, I think my book's good. And then for me to get like several one-star reviews saying it's not good, I think we see that as embarrassing. And it would have been far safer for me to say, oh, it's no good. It's a silly book. And that would have, seemed better. But I think it's cowardly. And I think you're missing out on opportunities to have people delight in your book because people will also fucking love what you make. You just got to find them.
Exactly. You find your community, you learn who your community is, and when you start to really create that, like I really believe in the idea of the modernist, like literary salon. And
Mm,
I think that we're coming back to a time right now where we're creating like that community. Like we need the coterie of people for support and collaboration. And like for me, good work doesn't come if I'm not in conversation. And I
yes.
think that that isolation in academia was something I fought really hard against. And like the new generation of academics, because of just the economy and positions, we've had to create new innovative ways to articulate
Mm,
what we do. And like, I love the conversations when I talk to someone from the public about I'm teaching the Canterbury Tales, and they're like, you know, what is that? Like, it's so nice
yeah,
to get to like engage with someone who doesn't know the text to try to just explain the purpose of it.
that's so
Like,
beautiful.
yeah,
I
yeah.
absolutely love that. I think you're right. And I think there's multiple things that came up for me as you were speaking, but I think you're doing such important work here. And I think you're right. This is a change that's desperately needed. a lot of us, I sense, are craving actually like in-person conversation where we get to really pick at each other's brains and see each other and like connect intellectually with each other in person, or at least on a more intimate basis than just like comment sections of the internet. And I can feel like this like desire for actual intellectual conversation with other people rather than very surface level shit that's happening, anyway on the internet. And I feel like there's a hunger for it that's happening, and a hunger for not just to be like have your ideas shout out or have your ideas be like, oh, that's amazing, but to have real conversations about it. And I think that's really exciting and something we've been missing a little bit, and something that I think academics have a huge role in, and creators of all types, we have a huge role to encourage this.
Yeah, well, I know that now that we're going to really dive into the medieval and Renaissance, inspiration you have. I'm just coming off of, like I said, teaching the Canterbury Tales. I'm about to
Perfect.
teach La Morte d'Arthur, and like I'm watching different Camelot renditions, and adaptations. And, I had on someone who teaches also at Seton Hall. Her name is Angela Weissel, and she's a medieval scholar,
Oh,
you know,
love.
and like has been giving me resources as well. But like, what is it for you about the medieval? Like maybe what you learned from your studies, or even like
Mm.
what you're now dwelling on, like later medieval, with what we learned from that culture. Like, do you think that there's still relevant
Yeah, beautiful.
institutions or systems?
I think what I find interesting is how irrelevant so many of the institutions are, but how the humanity that we see within the court documents, within the ecclesiastical journals, like we see the humanity that is still around today. And so, whilst it's very hard for me to relate to or understand how I would live in a society so built around religion, I can see. Like when I read again, like I love court documents. When I read like a court document about, there's an incredible court document about a woman who was caught um, in her house with three naked men all wearing aprons in different rooms of her home. And like no one knows what was going on, but her neighbors dobbed her in, right? And I'm like, oh my God, that's so incredibly weird and human. And I love that, like, I can't understand your life in so many ways, but whatever you had going on there, girl, like, let's get it. And I think there's just that tether back to humanity. And I love seeing humanity in very foreign spaces. And I think I love seeing and I love creating that on the page. It's like this is a very different world than you can understand, but you can see how human it is and how we don't actually really change even after hundreds of years.
Yeah, and like for the court documents, and like I'm assuming you've just done so much research, like not only for To Kill a Queen, but for your other two,
Yeah.
historical novels, is what was it about royalty? Like, the
Mm,
queen, the king, they really did create, like everything really started from them and then went
yeah.
down.
And
Like,
yeah.
which we've gone away from. Like if anything, I feel, even though, I'm in America and our political system right now is a real shit show, but, it's still,
We're
it
still
doesn't
not.
impact us the same way it would in the
Yeah,
medieval
definitely.
period.
Yeah. I think again, as it's a system that is like hard for us to wrap our minds around and hard for us to understand like how much impact these royals would have had on these on individual regular people's lives. Something that I enjoy about writing about that 16th century kind of Tudor era, which is a heavily written about era. We have a huge amount of fiction and obviously a huge amount of historical documents around that era, but it does focus a lot on the monarchs. And so all three of my books, whilst this book is called To Kill a Queen, Elizabeth is a very periphery character. I wanted to get to know the people who lived under these regimes and what was it like for them to exist in such a strange, like segmented society.
Yeah, and there's such a mythology around like Queen Elizabeth herself. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always obsessed with the Mary Queen of Scots versus Queen Elizabeth documents,
Yeah.
and like the letters that exist, and it's just,
There's
you know,
never a part of her reign that isn't like made for the movies. Like she had the most main character energy that I've ever seen in any sort of historical person ever. And yeah, you're right. Like these, I mean, why am I writing historical fiction about this era? Because the fiction writes itself. It's
mm,
absolutely like incredible storytelling. And as I research it all and read my books about it all, and as you said, like I've been researching this for a long time. I started my degree when I was, I think, 21 or even younger, 20, and I'm 33 now. So I've been with the work for a long time. But when I read these documents, I'm just like, oh my God, the stories they write themselves. And as I'm looking down the barrel of writing the sequel to this novel, I was like, what should it be about? I open up a book, find this story about how, like a real life story about how this man managed to convince a huge proportion of London that he was Jesus. And I'm like, done. So there's my, second book sorted. It's just this period of history and so many periods of history just filled with the most juicy human bizarre stories that are made to put in books.
Yeah. What did you learn about Queen Elizabeth that might surprise us? Like, do you feel that you've can hear her voice in a way, or you kind of can understand a
Mm.
more embodied version of who she is outside of this mythos that's been built?
Yeah. This story is a queer story and it's revolves around Jack who I feel like if Jack was around today, we might refer to them with like they them pronouns. They dance between this world of the female and the male. Like they were born a woman, but they've been raised a male and they go by the name of Jack. And during the story, Jack meets up with Queen Elizabeth's current dalliance. So we're in the kind of later years of Queen Elizabeth's life. She's not super old, she's not about to die, but she's got rid of Robert Dudley, her original suitor, and she's currently courting the French prince. And this French prince is an amazingly diverse character as well. He loved to dress up as a woman, was incredibly like sexually liberated, held these incredible parties, and loved to dress up in Queen Elizabeth's clothes. And apparently, like this just delighted her. And I love to think of this. To me, and like again, we can't know, but to me, she just feels like this incredibly like queer, like open-hearted, delicious woman who allowed like people to be themselves in her spaces.
Mm. And it's so fascinating because I feel like the relevance is in that fluidity that happens in the royal
Mm.
court, like whether it's
Yes,
in Tudor England, whether it's like, even in the Middle Ages, that the royal court always had like such fluidity and,
did.
eccentricity. Like even, what's happening in Mar-a-Lago, they're going wild with different, parties, but
It's
yet
like no rules.
yeah, but yet the rules have to be rigid for those who live under this regime. And it's like,
Exactly.
why are they trying to control those who are living under
It's so
the
interesting, isn't
wealthy?
it?
Yeah.
And we see that all the time with power. It's like those who are enforcing rules are I mean, my first book was called The Rules Upheld by No One. Those who are enforcing rules are never upheld by the people who are enforcing them. And what an interesting thing that happens to humanity that like, and the rules are often so rigid, and yet the real rigid enforcers are always breaking them, and often to like perverted standards. And like, why is that happening? And I think these are the chances when we get to fiction and we get to play with these characters, we get to explore questions like that because it's not something that's in our past. It happens today.
hmm Yeah. I mean, all we have to do is look at um, the constant conversation around the Epstein files to see
Exactly.
how, wealth and corrupt slash perverted power can
Mm.
definitely exist
It's,
hand
I
in
mean,
hand.
people are like, is it relevant what you're saying? I'm like, it's fucking relevant. Like, we share so much with these, crazy dynasties that we see as being barbaric. I'm like, baby, let's look and learn because like stuff is happening right now that would be very easy for an Elizabethan person to understand because they're also moving through it.
Yeah. Well, and if I may, I just want to read the first few sentences of your novel because I love the language. Like, it's going to get everyone listening or watching us on YouTube into your, London world. So, London in the year of our Lord, 1579, smelt like shit, but somehow still felt romantic. It happened every summer. Every time it got hot, all the Londoners started pacing the cobbles, looking for a good time. I just love that how our narration right away, it's like the atmospheric
Mm.
senses. Like you really are brought into this 1570s London scene. As we get closer to Pride Month, the Gay and Lesbian Review has a brand new magazine celebrating all things Pride in a special issue called Homo Literarius. So it's all about playing on that idea of homo and the Latin root, which the Latin word homo means person.
So not just homosexuality, but how LGBT figures have celebrated one another, have read each other, the lovers that they've had who've also helped inspire their creativity. It is a really interesting issue that includes articles about James Baldwin in Turkey, the gays who kill genre. Think about Thomas Ripley or Hitchcock's Rope or Drew Drogi's Messy White Gays. Christopher Street, a fellow LGBT magazine, just turned 50. So there's an article about how Christopher Street came to be. So much is in this issue, and I can't wait for you all to get your hands on it. You can read the digital issue, or you can get the print magazine. Head to glreview.org, use the promo code ITBRChoice for a free issue of the magazine, and I know you all are going to absolutely love it as much as I do.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so not last minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
Welcome to Severed, a podcast week dropping new episodes every Monday. Severed True Crime and Severed Paranormal episodes deep dive into murder, mysteries, and the otherworldly in a concise format. A 7-minute story to frame the case with thoughtful analysis and our usual banter.
We sometimes find the lighter side of darker cases. We offer 3 spin-off shows, Severed Strange Stories, Severed Haunted You, and Severed Serial Killers that highlight the unusual to lighthearted topics from the digital dumpsters of true crime, haunted universities, and the minds of madness like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer.
We are your co-hosts. I'm Harry Chambers.
And I'm Drew Hudson. Listen on all major podcast platforms, including Rogue Media Network and Radio Garden State. Follow us on Instagram at severed_podcast.
Thank you.
How did you really embody, trying to figure out what it would be like to, smell, to see, to hear?
I think, if you go into London today, I'm in Oxfordshire in the countryside, but I'm quite close, so I go in a lot. It's like a sensory fucking nightmare. There's so much going on. And I think being in that space, I'm like, but imagine what it would have been like as a sensory experience in the 1500s, and almost still keeping the spirit of London alive today, because I think she holds the heart of Tudor London. She is there. When you go around London today, you see the Tower of London, where a lot of this book is based. She's still there, hidden underneath. But I mostly just go through all my senses, what does it smell like? I'm an extremely overstimulated person, but it means that I'm very attuned to what would overstimulate me. And I think about walking through Tudor London, and I think about how much stuff would set my nerves on fire, and then I write it down in the book.
Yeah. And, what is it about London? I'm right outside of New York City. So, similar, just
very similar energy.
Across the pond, different kind of energy, maybe. I think New York City, when I went to London, I actually thought London was a calmer New York City.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So, but you're right. There's the Tudor buildings. There's just the Thames, the way that the history is still embodied there, and the way that Londoners really value their museums. They value living and breathing the history, where I would say in New York City, the history's there, but it's like a small group of who are invested, where, capitalism really is running wild. But, what is it about that history that you think Londoners just really value?
It's something I really love about British people. I'm half British, half Australian, so I feel like I can look at it with a slight bit of removal. I love how much the English take pride in their history. And, obviously some of it maybe take less pride in Please Babies, but also they want to show you, and they want to preserve the stories. I think they're a storytelling culture, and I love how seriously they take it. And you can't walk anywhere without feeling the weight of history in this country. And as a storyteller, I love it. As a historical fiction writer, like I love it. I love that I can feel the past always when I'm here. And it's like haunted, but in like the best way. It's just haunted with stories. And I know for me, like when I think about like why 1570s, why Tudors, I think it's because the Brits have just taken a very strange amount of pride in that particular area of history. And it's what, I was educated in the UK. That's what you get taught. Where it's a super like intense, like you get taught from like the 1400s to maybe you get the Victorian era too, but from the 1400s to like the late 1800s, the English history is just given to you and it's repeated and everybody knows it. And it's like our stories. And so for me, everyone knows Anne Boleyn, these queens, Henry VIII's wives, like it attached onto my soul as a young child. And when I got the opportunity to study more, I was always going to look at that medieval period.
Well, and are you also, I'm assuming, inspired from Shakespeare's works? Like, is
Yeah,
there
of
any
course.
Shakespeare play that really like, you've sat with for a while or has inspired some of your writing?
Such a beautiful question because I'm a huge Shakespeare nerd and I love I really love most of his plays. Some of them, you can't win them all, Shakespeare.
Mhm.
You can't have everyone be a banger. But I'm trying to think if anyone in particular informs this. I mean, Shakespeare's around in this period, which I find so freaking cool. So, like, his presence, I think it's felt like we're about to enter like the era of like the theatre in London. And I think we're on the precipice of this like creative rebellion, right as Jack is investigating this murder. So I think you can feel like we go to the theatre in this book and we meet the actors and the playwrights and there's this energy of like something big is coming and we're making something of ourselves as actors. So you can definitely feel Shakespeare. He is basically there. We've got all his buddies there. We just don't meet the man himself just yet because he's a tiny bit too young.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like your mystery to kill a queen pairs so well with someone I've had on the podcast, Amie Mcnee, who wrote a book called A Rose by Any Other Name, which is actually like looking into Shakespeare's
Oh, gorgeous.
fictionalizing Shakespeare's life. So,
Wow.
with the Dark Lady, like who the Dark Lady is and the origin of that.
I mean, again, that man, like, what a life. And how could we not, as authors, want to have a little dabble in that?
But you're right, theater is such a central tenement of London life. I
It
mean,
is.
you have the Globe, but you have so much going on in the West End and
Uh-huh.
so much experimental
It's a
theater.
spectacle, the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like so many different genres. And, of course, I'm both a Victorian and a 19th century American literature scholar, but I do love the way that the British writers like Bram Stoker's Irish, but he's kind of an
We can't
affiliated. Him
forget.
and him and Oscar Wilde are kind of,
Yeah.
British by their writing, but that they just take so many different narration explorations. Like Jane
Mm,
Eyre, I mean, is an incredible, rich novel. Like there's so much psychological insight I find in
mm.
these writings, but even what you're exploring, I love what you said. It's like they're on the precipice of knowing that there's going to be this creative
Yeah.
explosion, but it's
Yeah.
like building up to
We're
it. So
not
yeah,
quite
like
there yet.
exactly. Like the emerging. I always love like when something's about to
I
emerge,
know, me
which
too. The best part of
yeah.
anything is anything good. The best part of anything good is just before it happens. And I think you can feel that in this London era of like just before theatre like really explodes. And so I couldn't not have that in the book. It really delights me. And so we meet Richard Burbage, who was one of the main actors, the biggest actors before Shakespeare really comes on the scene. And we meet, some of the big playwrights, Ben Jonson, and there's some dodgy dealings happening in the theatre, because again, like the actors, creative visionaries, but also often just very regular people. And so we see a lot of debauchery and violence and poverty within the theatre crowd. And so they were a really interesting bunch to explore with, especially in a murder mystery.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. Have you had a chance ever to see Pasolini's The Canterbury Tales?
I haven't. I
Okay.
know a bit about. I mean, I've studied the Canterbury Tales, but I've never seen it.
Okay. Well, it's a very interesting NC-17 adaptation of the Canterbury Tales from 1972.
Oh, wow,
And
cool.
Pasolini's like very, into erotic
Oh, this sounds so
Italian
up my alley.
filmmaking. Yeah. Well, The Miller's Tale is very faithful with
Oh,
cuckolding. So
I
there's
mean,
a lot
Chaucer is
there.
such an incredible, like, he's so good at what I studied, It's such an amazing, like, the sexual nuance and everything is just, I love.
Yeah, he comes from a middle class family that like the middle class emerges during
Mm,
that time. And it's
yeah,
like what you
fascinating.
explore too, like Jack's, for those who are about to read or listen, right? Because they can listen to your
They
book on
can, I
Audible,
narrated it.
Audible and Spotify, right? I think it's on
Yeah, yeah,
Spotify.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And you narrated it. That's amazing.
So fun.
So take us into Jack's like psyche.
Mm,
Like who is Jack as a person? Like what
yeah.
motivates your character here?
So Jack, speaking of like this emerging middle class, we have Jack, who is the son of London's like biggest crime lord. So Jack hails from Shoreditch, which is in the Tudor times just outside of London. Right now, if you went to Shoreditch, you'd feel slap bam in the middle of it. But is this like only son, in inverted commas, of Axe, this crime lord, and he has been brought up committing crimes, doing heinous things, until eventually he just couldn't take it anymore, and so he switched sides, and he's now working for a justice of the peace, which is the closest we can get to a detective in Tudor London, trying to repent for his sins by solving crimes. And so we have this like he wants to atone for this terrible life he's had, but at the same time he's got that dog in him, he's got that thief. Like he sees things like a thief. He has that survival instinct like someone who hasn't had a lot. And he's trying to create a new life for himself, but it's hard. And his father keeps calling him back, and his old ways keep calling him back. And at the end of the day, his old ways, his connections with the streets are what actually makes him an amazing detective. So we've got this story of like a lot of tension between who he's becoming and who he was. And not to mention, someone's tried to kill Queen Elizabeth I, and he's got to figure out who's tried to assassinate Her Majesty. So yeah, there's a lot going on for poor Jack. A lot of people pulling him in different directions as he navigates like the gritty Tudor London streets.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that there definitely is like a Sherlock Holmes-ish
Yeah.
element, but definitely very different in how I think it's amazing that you also talked about adding in this queer element. Like,
Mm.
what else? Just teasing those
Yeah, yeah.
listening so they don't find out everything. But like, what is it about the queerness that you think is so elemental to your
Mm.
novel?
I always, I'm queer and I'm bisexual and have been exploring my own, I guess, like just relationship with gender. And I've always used my novels and as a way to explore my own sexuality, just as I used my medieval academia short-lived career as a way to explore my own sexuality and how we perceive sexuality. So this is always going to be a big part of my books. And not only that, queerness and queer people are always going to be a huge part of our history, but we don't see them a lot. They were very often purposefully non-documented. What's very interesting is that lesbians in particular, like women-loving women, were never included in a lot of court documentation because they didn't just not want it to happen. They didn't want it to be written on paper, like they didn't want to see it existing. So we have a really big gap here of stories untold about women who love women. And so I frequently put it in my books. And like we see glimpses historically through primary sources here and there. There's a great piece of evidence that suggests about a load of dildos found in a nunnery. And there's, the the classic, she lived with her very good friend, marriage certificates. And there is evidence of women who love women, but there's not a lot, and there's not a lot of stories told about them, but they existed. And so I love getting to write these stories, obviously piecing together a lot of primary sources, and we can't know for certain who these women were or tell their stories exactly, but we can tell stories like them. And it's such a privilege and an honor to do that.
Hmm. And are you a fan of like the mystery genre outside of just like say historical fiction? Like you just love all different types of
Oh, baby,
mystery
yeah. I'll
narratives.
read any mystery. I'll read
Mm.
any mystery. I love anything like episodic or procedural as well. So I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan. So anything elementary, house, like anything that has that element of like something will be discovered this episode has me like in a chokehold. It's really soothes me. I find it very calming. So I've always wanted to explore this genre for myself as a writer, but I thought, God, it's a whole new thing. I'm going to have to learn so much, but I'm glad I did it. It was a lot of fun.
How hard was it for you to figure out the pacing of your novel? Because I would assume as a mystery
Yeah, it's
writer,
different.
you really have to like figure out the clues you're going to give, the foreshadowing, the symbolism, and like you don't want to
Yeah.
give too much away at the beginning.
So I'm a big proponent of a very shitty first draft, and I will tell you, Andrew, I had no idea who done it until about 75% of the way through of the first draft. So I let the story reveal itself to me, and I let the murderer reveal themselves to me through just exploratory writing. But that meant on the second draft, yeah, I had to go back through and drop a load of hints because I had no freaking clue who was going to do it legitimately for the first, most of the book. But it was different trying to figure out pacing, and it is a very different pace to my other books. There's tropes that need to happen. There's a lot of recapping that has to happen in a mystery. Like, what have we found out? And like how, like trying to keep the audience up to date with what's going on. I read a lot of mysteries and I'm like, I don't even care. But most of the time I'm like, I've got no idea what's going on. And I don't really mind, but I wanted to make sure that the reader was, coming along with Jack and keeping up with all the clues and making sure that it was not too complicated, but complicated enough for it to be rewarding. Hard balance. Not sure if I struck it, but you can all tell me in my Goodreads review.
I think you did, definitely.
Thank
I
you.
mean, and it's also a testament to your writing that you're able to not only create a suspenseful mystery, but you're also able to bring us into Tudor England. And it's like,
Thank
it's
you.
tough to make a mystery novel in a historical place,
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah. It's good fun merging both of them though. And I feel like we need more historical mysteries. Lots of mysteries happen back there. Lots of unsolved crimes that us fiction authors can tell.
Absolutely. I mean, and, even in the Victorian period, we have Sweeney Todd. So,
Exactly.
the Demon Barber, yeah, Jack the Ripper. I mean, there's
I
so
mean, the
much.
Victorian era was obviously just made for mystery.
Yeah, well,
Just
the Penny
born for it.
Dreadful was a mystery like bestseller. Like,
Mm,
right? People would just buy the Penny Dreadfuls.
so
And
cool.
yeah,
I
I
was reading
love
today
it.
really
I love
quickly,
it.
sorry.
No, go, yeah.
I was reading today really quickly. I was doing an article about how murders were solved before we had police and we had forensics to promote the book, and I like absolutely like fascinating. But I was reading about how interested the Tudors were as well in they wanted their true crime, and I think that's a really interesting thing that we share throughout history. Is like humans want to be involved in crime. We want to understand who did it. We get very nosy and gossipy about it, and I think we think it's a very modern thing. The true crime podcast. We're so obsessed with our true crime shows. Baby, those Tudors were absolutely gagging for information about who killed who. And, we see it in the Victorian times. We see it like all through. I know that, James could come in here with some good and ancient Roman examples. I don't think we're going to get over it as a species.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nero, and there's countless
Drama back then.
examples. Drama. There's even like Gregory Maguire has a novel, Mirror Mirror, um, that like if people like to read Wicked, I always recommend it
Oh, lovely.
because it's a retelling of Snow White, but it's in the Italian Renaissance with
Love.
Lucretia Borgia. Is it
Oh,
Borgia?
yes.
Borgia, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was
Oh, that
saying
would be
bourgeois,
fantastic.
and then someone's like, "No, it's not bourgeois." I don't know. I like the
I
way
think
that
it's
that sounds.
Borgia, but who
Bourgeois.
knows? I'm not Italian.
I know. Well, I'm a little Italian, but I'm not actually
You must be
directly
then.
in Italy. So, I just always.
Are you a fan of classic Hollywood movies?
Are you a fan of queer cinema?
Then do we have the podcast for you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Garcia.
And I'm Luke Del Mar.
And we are your hosts of That Old Gay Classic Cinema, where we take a look at some of the greatest films of all time and analyze them through a queer theoretical lens.
Let's be honest. LGBTQIA+ people have been a part of Hollywood since its inception, and this podcast celebrates those artists and entertainers of yesteryear while also taking a closer look at the queer-coded characters and stories in classic Hollywood films long before queer representation entered the mainstream.
So follow us down the road of classic cinema as we give you a guide to some of the films that touched our hearts, brains, and even gave us courage to be ourselves.
You can listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
All right, listeners, we're ready for our close-up.
Why does anything exist? Why is there something rather than nothing? I think that's a question we all, as curious people, have asked ourselves. And let me tell you, Professor Stephen A. Simon's new book is so thought-provoking that I can't wait for you all to pick it up. He provides his experience as a professor of political science and philosophy to explore that question with such a variety of perspectives from science, religion, philosophy, and even mathematics. He helps us understand what could possibly explain the most fundamental fact of all, that anything exists. So you can get this from broadviewpress.com. The floodgates have opened with science fiction as a genre in my life because I owe this to my husband, and I'm going to give him credit. He has really gotten me to think more about sci-fi, film, and literature. I have to say, Minority Report, absolutely amazing. And Alien, I mean, who doesn't love that alien coming out of that human body in the first film? So Professor Jason Haslam's new anthology provides a lot of exploration with all different short fiction, so many sci-fi authors, over 200 years, including sci-fi that explores indigenous futurism, feminist science fiction, Afrofuturism. Again, you can get this on broadviewpress.com. And last but not least, my upcoming episode with Professor Matthew James Wachinsky explores his book, which is Original Inquiry, A Guide to Research for Undergraduates, a great toolkit for all faculty out there who are just trying to find a book that helps their students understand how to collect research sources and then, right, the hardest part, build and organize their essay with all of these sources and to make a cohesive argument. I can't recommend Original Inquiry highly enough. So again, all three books can be found on broadviewpress.com. Use the promo code Ivory Tower for 20% off.
Say I have like a New Jersey mashup of my words anyway. You know,
Love it.
whatever
Love
you
it.
say, we know what you're saying. That's
Exactly.
that's my thought. But yeah, I think that it's so exciting to look back at these times, but also like, what do you think of the TV shows that are done or the films? Like, did you like the Tudors series?
Yeah, it's interesting as someone who was so obsessed with that era, and I read a lot of Philippa Gregory, who was the writer that a lot of the Tudors was. Oh no, Philippa. They did
Oh, the other
the other
Boleyn.
Boleyn girl,
Boleyn
and
girl.
they did. I quite liked that, and I already loved her books and always read her books. The Tudors like had me for a bit, then lost me for a bit. I don't know. There's something so evocative about the Tudors in my imagination that I haven't really seen it captured on film. And I'm not sure what that is. Sometimes and this is so silly, but sometimes I think because there was no lights in the Tudor time, it's just all candlelit. I can't be watching a dark TV show. I'm like, I need some light, I need some brightness. And in my imagination, when I picture all these incredible places, they are so bright, not fluorescent lit or anything. But yeah, I've never super become entranced by any of these Tudor shows.
Well, I know there's a new Marie Antoinette show that I want to
Oh,
watch.
let's go.
Yeah. Oh, you like Marie Antoinette?
Yeah. How could you not? And absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's been disproven, right? That she said, let them eat cake.
It is sadly, but whatever. We'll live in our own little world where.
But again, right? Like that's where a myth of someone, like even the myth of Queen Elizabeth, well, they called her the Virgin Queen, which, do we really think she was a virgin her whole life?
Yeah.
But
I mean, the myths are sometimes much more interesting than the history, and the myths are just as important history as the history itself. Like what we believe about people is history and is to be studied and is to be explored. And so I kind of think we don't need to get so picky about what did and did not happen.
Yeah. Well, it's like, do you know The Fairy Queen by Spencer?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So like even the way that she becomes this like, the queen in this mythological, like wrapped up in a fairy tale, but then like Mary Queen of Scots is the dragon who needs their head cut off. It's just like, it's so fascinating because like, yeah, like no person in real life can embody that mythology, but like you said, it's what lives on. It's what gets retold. Like that's why I think storytelling and like back to the epic tradition of the ancient Greeks, like we're never gonna leave the power of the Odyssey and these
No.
really just foundational
Yeah.
human emotions, right? Like it's about humanity.
I know, and it's so beautiful. I have a real soft spot for the Odyssey. I actually have a real soft spot for the Fairy Queen as well. Yeah, these stories are deeply important, and again, I love that we can see ourselves in them. Like I can see myself in the Odyssey. Like that is so unbelievably beautiful and very cool. Yeah, we need to stop being so picky about whether it's fiction or non-fiction. It is our history, is human history, whether it was written or happened in real life.
Absolutely. And I loved learning that, correct me if I'm wrong, but like that your writing process is more of, it's similar to like my own artistic process, which is like when the idea comes, like you can't leave it, but like for weeks, you may just be um seeking the inspiration, like really
Mm,
trying to find what you need to say and doing a
mm,
lot of research. But like when you
mm.
finally get down to write, it just you can't leave it. Like, is that true?
Yeah.
Like, you're not someone who can write every day continually.
So I write like very small amounts
Mm.
pretty regularly, but I'm not a girly who's going to sit down and write 10,000 words, like ever. And I need to dip in and out of my creativity because I think a huge part of the creative process happens off of the page, like while we're out, while we're thinking, while we're eating dinner. Like it's a cognitive work, and we think cognitive work only happens at a screen, but it happens all the time. And our
Mm.
brain is doing so much work, even unconsciously as creatives. And so I will try and write, when I'm writing a first draft, I'll try and write 500 words a day, even when they're really, really terrible. I don't want to be someone who like is constantly at the laptop because I think most of the art and the ideas and the magic doesn't happen at the laptop. We need space to percolate and to daydream and to process. But most of us think we're avoiding the work when we're out on a walk or we're, doing something different. But I think when artists, the best part about us is like we're never really avoiding the work.
You're right. And it could be at a bookstore. Like, I find
Mhm.
bookstores and libraries really helpful for me to like browse and like try to like um find specimens of
Mm,
creative nuggets that I really need
I love
to
that.
process. And you're right, like that isn't wasted time, even though like and maybe that's the fight with humanities is that creative time, that thinking time, it doesn't translate immediately into
Mm,
a timesheet, but
exactly.
you need that process in order to create.
The creative process doesn't fit very well into like industrialist capitalist work
Mm.
modes. And if you can't, exactly what you said, if you can't plug it into a timesheet or hand over a physical product at the end of your day, then it's a wasted time. When the reality is that again, like our creative work is so cognitive, it's so internal. Like I'll have days and days at a time where nothing fucking happens, but then somehow out of the blue, like an idea reveals itself to me and I've got a whole new book. And so we need to be very careful about when we're in our creative process, comparing it to the 9 to 5 work day or like, you know, any other sort of work because creative work is not like other work. It's very unique.
Absolutely. And you know, in your book We Need Your Art, like where did that idea, like how did
Mm.
that book get inspired?
So I've been writing and sharing publicly about the creative journey for over a decade now. And it is like a compendium of every little tiny thought I've had about this creative process all put into one beautiful place. And it was incredibly satisfying to distill, over a decade's worth of creative ponderings into one little creative Bible. But it is evidence of my trying, you know? We're just giving it a fucking go out here. We're trying. I'm writing books, I'm giving it a go. And on the way, I learned so much. And some of the lessons are a bit painful and some of them are beautiful, but I wrote them down and I'm so grateful I wrote them down. I'm so grateful that I shared them. Um, and now I get to have them all in one book as a way to make sure that none of us feel alone as we navigate this, because it is very difficult. But it is also very beautiful and very, very needed.
Yeah. So what have you learned from your audience, like your podcast audience,
Mm,
your reading audience? Like, have they helped shape you in,
mm.
your identity as an artist?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, my We Need Your Art wouldn't be here without my community of creatives, because the only reason it's here is because I shared my creative journey with others and they saw me and they said, hey, me too. Or they said, hey, do you also have a situation with this? Like, do you also feel like, you can only write if you have a whole day free? Or do you also feel like you can't share it because you'll feel embarrassed, And I'm like, yeah, I do. And seeing myself in others and having others see themselves in me has been why I was able to, write We Need Your Art. It's a huge part of the journey. And then for my novels, I feel like I'm still building my readership, but just again, it's the beautiful thing about art is like you hand over something and you say, oh my God, this is so personal. This is me in paper form. And they take it and they go, oh my God, this is so personal. This is me in paper form. And I think I'm handing over Amie in a book form, but I'm handing over a mirror and they see themselves in my work. And so when I speak to people who read my fiction and they say, I see myself in this, like, oh my God, what an incredible piece of feedback, which also means like I see myself in them. And so it's such a beautiful communal and symbiotic relationship between the author and reader. And I feel incredibly grateful for it.
Yeah, well, and I loved learning that, you know, as I'm, reading To Kill a Queen, it makes sense that you were discovering who did it along the way because it really, your pacing has such suspense to it because you were
I didn't know.
also, yeah, you didn't know, you were figuring it out with us. And
Yeah.
I think it's nice that it's always, I think, more productive. This is just how I work too, to not always know, to not know the answer at the end of the
We don't need to
tunnel.
know.
No.
Yeah,
And sometimes you get too prescriptive if you try to like set
exactly.
everything down immediately.
It's kind of like any academic, especially maybe more in the sciences, but I feel like in the humanities as well, trying to like prove a hypothesis. Like you don't go prove the hypothesis, you go and try and prove it wrong. You try to reveal truth. And so I liked that process for fiction. It's like instead of like knowing exactly what's going to happen, I let my fiction tell me exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and I know you're working on a sequel. So
Mm.
can you like, leave us with some excitement
Yeah.
about what we might expect in the To Kill a Queen sequel?
Yeah. So another Jack and Jenny mystery. We, as I said, someone's come to London and said they're Jesus Christ and they're performing miracles on the streets of Tudor London. Miracles. Like Jack saw with his own eyes Jesus walked on water. What the fuck is going on? And basically what happens is everyone's got 7 days and then everyone in London is either going to heaven or hell. So you got to repent pretty quickly or something not very nice is going to happen. And so we have 7 days for Jack to figure out if this Jesus fella is the real deal or not. And again, this really fucking happened, which is just unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah. I love that you like take the history and like any really just riveting read, you take the history, you breathe life into it, and you open up questions around these
Mm,
cases. Like,
mm.
if we actually, you know, if Jack is like a substitute for us as the reader,
Yeah.
like what it would be like if we were
What are we
encountering
doing that?
this. Yeah. Right. And like,
And of
what are
course,
people
Jack's
gonna,
butt.
yeah.
Sorry,
And what are people going to see when they look back like 100 years from now at
yes,
what's going on in our history?
exactly.
I don't
No, but
know.
I don't know. But it does, it also reminds us of, how small we are and how small the present moment is because, maybe Jack would have been back there being like, imagine what they're going to think of us in like 500 years' time. It's going to be so embarrassing. But it's like, I mean, it's interesting, but the world moved on. And we are such small creatures here for such a small amount of time. And even when we think we're making a big mess of history, it's like, it's still just a little blip.
Yes,
And I like that reminder.
absolutely. So it's been so wonderful talking with you. That went by so quick,
It
Amie. I was
did. Thank
like,
you, Andrew.
we had so much to, catch up on with To Kill a Queen. And I just would love if you could tell everyone how they can follow you on social media and, get their hands on To Kill a Queen and your other works.
Thank you. Yes, so you can follow me on social media. I'm on Substack at Amie Mcnee, and I'm on Instagram at Inspired to Write. And then to find To Kill a Queen, as I said, she's on most audiobook platforms. I read it. I had so much fun reading it. They don't normally let authors read fiction, but I fought because I knew I had certain voices for certain people. I was like, I'm reading that book. So if you want to listen to her, highly recommend. But otherwise, you can grab her in wherever you like to buy your books from. And same with my other fiction books, again, like wherever you want to buy your books from, go find them, go have a delightful time in Elizabethan London, and let my books kind of take care of you. Let them have a little cozy retreat from the real world, and let me have a bit of fun with you in Tudor England.
Yeah, it's nice to retreat,
We need that.
into the imaginative spaces. Yeah, we do. I don't think we can be 100% attuned to our daily realities.
No,
and
we shouldn't be.
No, it's what is that poem? The world is too much.
I don't know. I don't know it, but I like it.
It might be Wordsworth. I might have quoted it
Oh,
wrong,
amazing.
but I think that you've taught us so much, Amie, not in just this conversation, but I'm continuing to learn from you. I love tuning into your podcast. I can't wait for the new episodes. So thank you so much, Amie. It was wonderful having you on here.
Thank you, Andrew. What a privilege. Thank you so much.